Welcome back to Africa Science Focus, the weekly science and development show from SciDevNet. I am Ogechi Ekeanyo. As the year 2022 winds up, we would like to share some of the interesting soundbites and conversations from the exciting conferences all held in December on the future of science and development in Africa. At the 2022 World Science Forum in Cape Town, South Africa, we spoke to Tumelo Nhlapo from the University of South Africa's Science Engagement Centre, who told us about the institution's use of Lego to get kids engaged in problem-solving and science, technology, engineering and math courses.
Part of what we do is to go to rural areas, raising awareness of robotics and coding into schools. So as I've indicated, we use such devices as Spark Prime or EV3 robots. These are Lego products. So now what we do when we go to the school, we get to build this. When we build such a robot, this is part of their subjects. So this comes in a container and these pieces are in certain segments. So now we use these beams to connect them together. It's like puzzles. Already done, but now it's just a matter of connecting them together. So we found that kids love to do things from scratch and it gives them a sense of pride. So now when they're able to build the basic type of a robot, following our basic instructions of how to do it, we now include another element to this, which is coding. Coding involves programming a robot to do certain functions. And the one that we are using, it's called Spark Prime, which is a Scratch program. There are two types of programming options there. There's a Python option and there's a word block, which is a Scratch program. Very easy for anyone to learn because there's colors in it, and as well as the words indicate what is required.
It's a basic form of coding.
Correct.
When you say Python, I'm already scared.
Yeah, so we first introduced the word blocks, which is the Sketch program. From there, when children are able to do that, now what we emphasize on this is how to teach them to ensure that the robot goes forward, backwards, left, right, pick up something, drop something. That's how we teach them how to use the program for. Once they are able to do that, now we introduce a theme in one of the challenges. For example, this set is called Superpowered. This Superpowered set, it's all about raising awareness of electricity generation and energy saving. So now, with the knowledge that they have of building a robot as well as programming a robot, what they are required to do is to ensure that they build and program accordingly to what they are seeing and to fulfill what we call missions, which are these obstacles here, at a certain number of time. When they are able to do that, it's easier for them to even do problem solving, also in different aspects. We are not only limited to one niche, but we are STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
At the Conference on Public Health in Africa, which held in Kigali, Rwanda, we spoke to Noella Bigiriman, Deputy Director General, Rwanda Biomedical Centre, which is the National Health Implementation Agency in Rwanda. Noella spoke to us about lessons learned from COVID-19 and how to adopt some of these lessons to prepare against emerging infectious diseases.
It's so important to come together, look at the lessons learned, share best practices. So in the context of COVID preparedness and response, there are many lessons. But I would highlight just a few, starting with, for example, the importance of global or continental-wide coordination and in our approach so that they're not isolated. That was so important. And it became very clear, not only in the response part where we really struggled with being able to access some of the key, I would say, for example, PPEs that were needed. So that global coordination in our approach is needed. And this is where the role of institutions such as the Africa CDC is important. Secondly, COVID highlighted the importance of having a robust health system. I think over the years we knew this was important, but in particular when you have an outbreak like COVID, you see how important it is to have worked on not only on the healthcare professionals in your system, to have had health facilities that are ready to treat people, any cases coming up, to have worked on the diagnostics part so you can find any of these conditions early on, and also on the prevention side, that it's so important to have a very clear message to communities around prevention. So working on building a resilient health system, I think it's a word that we say often, but understanding that it means that, and this is not, you don't wait for an outbreak to prepare for these systems. I think as a country, as a region, as a continent, we learn the importance of it. I would say the third part is just understanding the tools at our hand, at our disposal. We know now more than ever that vaccinations is a great tool for public health. We know that the measures that were taken or shared in terms of frequent hand washing and mask wearing were so important. We know diagnostics. I want to come back to it because, unless you're able to detect and diagnose that there is an issue, you won't know how to perhaps address these diseases that have a potential to be an outbreak.
The Africa Economic Conference, which held in Mauritius and was hosted by the African Development Bank, the Economic Commission for Africa, and the United Nations Development Programme. Here, we learnt about more developing policies around renewable energy, climate-smart development, and transitioning to clean fuels in Africa. We talked to Dr. Fatma Sese, the UNDP Economic Advisor for Ghana and Gambia, and she spoke to us about transitioning to clean fuels in Africa.
By Africa developing institutions and policies that ensures we emphasize on renewable energy, we're already going to be contributing immensely on reducing the impact of climate change or even mitigating how much carbon emissions that the continent produces. So I really want to emphasize on the energy transition for the continent. Again, we know the reality, if 16% of the people have access to clean energy fuels, the rest of the population still needs to cook on a regular basis. It's important also to look at the importance and the emphasis on clean energy fuels, not only to look at the economic benefits and the potential it holds. And here, I really want to emphasize on the importance of the continent not seeing this energy gap as a burden or not seeing the need to close in the energy gap with renewable energy as a burden, but as opportunities that exist to create jobs. And apart from the economic benefits, also to look at the opportunities that with regards to health benefits. We know the impacts of indoor pollution that many of our people on the continent experience on a regular basis. So to contribute to development will be an emphasis of having policies, regulations, legal framework, and institutions that ensure that we move towards renewable energy.
Professor Kelvin Chika Urama, Acting Chief Economist and Vice President, Africa Development Bank, spoke to us about developing climate-smart policies in Africa.
People always think that climate-smart policies is about switching from coal to renewable. That is climate-friendly, but it might not be climate-smart. Climate smartness, for me, would mean that you have a policy that juxtaposes the three pillars of development. Social equity, so you keep people happy, people get their needs, you address the social welfare of people. Economic growth, so that the economy can grow and provide for the goods and services that populations in a particular country need to grow, to remain alive and to have a good life. And then environmental sustainability, which means that actions to achieve the social justice and the economic growth does not impact negatively on the environment in a net positive fashion. Because every action impacts on the environment. But the issue here is, how do you ensure that your social and economic policies are not oxymoronically bad for the environment? So you are not putting into the environment things that are beyond the carrying capacity of that environment. So, and that is why I talked about a constrained optimization. So we have to optimize our policies in these three pillars. And that is what will lead to what I call inclusive growth. A growth policy that considers the economy, the society, and the environment together, giving them equal weights. So, and for climate change, there are several policies that can help address those problems for Africa. One, let me start from what we have to do as Africans, as African governments, to address this challenge. Climate change and green development transitions is an industrial revolution era, just like when we had the steam engine, or when we had the first, second, and third industrial revolution. And then we're in the fourth industrial revolution, where technology is driving change. So how are we investing in being part of developing those technologies that will drive the transformation and markets in the future of the future? So climate smart policies for me would be that African countries will look into its capacities to build capacities on the continent to produce technologies, because consumers of technology cannot declare profits. And this is what we have done as Africa in the first, second, and third industrial revolution. So we need to be able to start producing those technologies, whether it's solar panel, produce them here. Electric batteries, produce them here. Electric vehicles, produce them here. Reason is a win-win for the environment, it's a win-win for economic growth, and it's a win-win for society. How does that happen? If we get those companies to come and site in Congo, where you have battery minerals, or in Zambia, where you have the cobalt, and so on and so forth, the copper, and so on and so forth, what you do simply is that you are reducing the carbon footprint of the end product. Because the current model is they go and mine the copper, send it to China, Brazil, or everywhere else, and produce the copper wires and bring it back to us. So that involves a lot of shipping and carbon emissions. So the carbon footprint of that product becomes, embedded carbon becomes high. So if we cite those industries where those raw materials are, you reduce that carbon footprint, or you cut it off completely. Then the second thing is you also reduce the cost of production, because the raw material input costs goes down because you remove all the logistics. So it's good for the investor. And then you create opportunities for jobs for the Zambians, for the Congolese, for the Nigerians, for all the people that are living in that place, because you can now use cheap labor from those countries. Again, good for the investor, because you are gaining access to cheap labor. And then Africa is a 1.4 billion people market that's going to continue to grow. And then, so you have enough market within Africa. And then when what you are exporting becomes now what is necessary that you need to export outside of the continent. So it's good for the environment, it's good for society, it's good for the economy. Let's make those climate finance come to Africa so that Africa can use those resources to build these industries, build the economies that are smart and green. Because if not, if Africa chooses to grow in using high carbon emitting technologies, all of us will suffer. It's not just only the continent that suffers.
That's all from us at Africa Science Focus. If you want to find out more, head to the SciDevNet website. That's www.scidev.net. Today's show was produced by Alice Hurst, with editing and hosting by me, Ogechi Ekeanyo. This is the last episode of Season 3 of the African Science Focus, and it is produced by SciDevNet and distributed in association with your local radio station. Goodbye.